dialed your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West. Here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it in this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it in first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Boardman is ready for a new zoning inspector. A new zoning inspector has been hired in Boardman. Thomas J. Karen is set to replace interim zoning director Marilyn Kenner. Karen will receive an annual salary of $80,000. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. YSU gets more cash and grant money. YSU has been approved for $806,247 in state funding. The project will include renovations in the Ward Beecher Hall, and according to a local Vindicator report published May 9th, it also will include upgrades to interior finishes, electrical and lighting improvements, classroom accessibility, technology accessibility, lab working surface replacements, and classroom heating, ventilation, and air conditioning work. The story made it because YSU has been looking and reaching out for as many blessings that they can receive. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. Foxconn still making major headlines. South Carolina-based Fisker Inc. is set to make a deal with Foxconn to finalize a contract and a manufacturing agreement for the company's PEAR, that's P-E-A-R, crossover vehicle, according to a local Vindicator report published May 10th. The report goes on to mention the key deals taking place at Foxconn as the company tries to maneuver from continued delayed production deadlines. That's why story number 3 made it this week, or goals if you want to be exact. Big headline. Story number 4. New contract talks. A federal mediator will help with talks between the Youngstown Education Association and Youngstown City School District. Union contracts are set to expire June 30th, thus making the story get in and making people aware of what's going on as Youngstown City Schools continues to try to rebound from a ferocious shutdown brought on by COVID-19, and on top of that, getting kids to meet the state standards. That's why story number 4 made it this week, because you cannot do it without teachers. Big head. Story number 5. Boardman Police gets some grant money. Oh yeah, Boardman Police will get a boost from state government with a $15,022 grant. Now this will help the department in its recruitment efforts. Boardman Police has been on the battlefield for Boardman for a long time and continues to get high praises from the local community, and that's for Youngstown Police as well. So that's why story number 5 made it this week. They are trying to do their job, and so the feedback from the community usually shows that they are people, and they try their best to listen. So we'll see how they can keep it up. Big head. Story number 6. Why the well water test in East Palestine is good news. East Palestine, if your country. East Palestine residents have been worried about the water. Now, what would happen if toxins from the train derailment would somehow seep into their water, and all of the water seems to be the biggest concern. Now, there is a big well, not a well water, but a well, according to the EPA, the Columbiana County's Health District, and the EPA and the Columbiana County Health District, the residents of East Palestine were told that private wells in the village tested clean. The local report published May 6 goes on to mention how the main concern is the future and how long it could actually take for well water to be contaminated. The goal, as stated in the report, is to test to make sure that the contaminant contamination in the water stream does not happen in the future, and it stays away from the water. So some people say it may happen in the long run, but let's hope it doesn't. That's why story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week. Story number 7 and the top 2. Local headlines and developing news stories this Mother's Day season. Shout out to all the mothers out there. I know how hard it was for my mom growing up. Sometimes we didn't even know where we were going to stay. But somehow that woman bore children, and she somehow put food on the table. So she somehow went through men who sometimes deceived her, sometimes put her out on the streets. And some people don't know how hard it is being a mother, especially when you have a child in some unpredictable and unusual circumstances. So Mediator says, happy Mother's Day out there. Story number 7, do local tax abatements work? Should be one for the mothers. Wouldn't that be nice? City Council in Girard is in an article published May 9th by the Mediator. They have suspended and approved a 10-year 75% tax abatement for Yellowstone Industrial LLC. The local article goes on to talk about how Yellowstone Industrial LLC plans to invest about $3 million to improve the former Cyro Steel building off of North State Street. The building has sat empty for some time. The article also mentions how the company plans to add 20 full-time permanent jobs in the first year. That's what got the story in. The story is still developing. That's why story number 7 made to the top this week, talking tax abatements. Have we learned our lesson yet? Big. Story number 8 at the top, local headline and developing news story that made it this week. We're talking about mental health on Mother's Day. This is the top story. There's a lot of mothers out there who suffer with mental health. My mother, she didn't mind disciplining me. Boy, she didn't mind. That's what it took to raise me. That's why I say being a mother is not easy. You got to discipline. Sometimes you got to be the father. Sometimes you got to be the nurturer. Sometimes you got to be the teacher. Sometimes you got to be the president. But mama, I remember the days. But mental health, she stayed. She kept her mental. I'm just trying to be nice. She kept it sometimes, but sometimes it was a little. She still can get a little crazy. Story number 8, mental health back on the ballot. Not just for mothers. I'm just saying it's for all people out there because it's getting crazy out there. But mothers getting crazy, you get more crazy. Happy Mother's Day to all the crazy mothers and mothers who have to be crazy. Local residents are starting to take notice of a need for mental health facilities. Last week sometime, the Mahoning County Commissioners approved putting a renewal levy on the November ballot for a Mahoning County Mental Health and Recovery Board. The levy was would raise about $5 million per year if approved. That's according to the article in the report that was published in the Mediator. Now this story is still developing because there's a lot of people still suffering from mental health. There was even some mothers who are not with us this Mother's Day because of mental health battles. So my sympathy and my respect in this show, I will try to mention Mother's Day as much as possible so the mothers will not be forgotten. Big headlines out there, folks. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories, so don't you go anywhere. You're the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
What does Method8inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
love. Is it possible for one to see hate? Is it possible for one to see two worlds? Is hate the opposite of love?
I will do whatever it takes to fall in love.
You're about to experience something real magical. Magic.
At this moment, Nana, you have a choice that I no longer have.
All I've been thinking about is rain.
That's impossible.
Oh no, she did it. If she hadn't, the sun wouldn't have come out. And she wants to make the move.
Well, hurry it up. You know rush hour comes in the afternoon. Alana, I didn't worry about you.
Haven't you noticed how dark it is around here lately?
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, it is Mother's Day. I have to say Happy Mother's Day to my mother. And my mother is such a sweet lady. She's always been that way, kind-hearted. And sometimes I used to tell her, I said, I think I was born to help you. You must have asked God for some help. My mother had, like most mothers in some life, they come from a different world. But one thing I can say about my mother is she has 3 beautiful children. She always says 3 angels, and she always when we used to ask her, you know, when she was separate, we all have 3 different fathers, but my stepdad raised me. But she would never ever be vengeful. And she never went after the people who broke her heart for child support, the men. And I would always wonder about this, you know. I'd say, Mom, you know, and I'd always ask her, I say, Mom, we don't have enough money, you know, to pay the bills. Mom, there's no food on the table. And she would never, ever consider being vengeful or taking anybody to court for child support. She would always just say, Brian, God will handle it. And to this day, I don't know how we made it. I don't know how I got to grow up in a jungle. I don't know if I could have made it without that woman's guide, if I could still make it. I mean, I still call on her from time to time. I say, Mama, there's a big man outside my door. He look like he hungry. What do I do? You know, should I close the door? She said, no, Brian, let him in. If he gonna take you out, you gonna have to answer to me. But that's what motherhood is about, you know. My heart goes out to the mothers out there who have lost children, and the mothers out there who have children, the mothers out there who have had to make some crazy decisions to raise their child. Every mother is different, every battle is different. But happy Mother's Day to my mom, your mom, and all the mothers who have gone on to glory. So that's my story this week. I'm softening up for the moms, because I seen my mother, and as I got older, my stepdad, whenever I would get upset with a female, he seen this woman get up time after again after she was knocked down. Time after time, she would get knocked down, she would get back up, and he would always say, Brian, there comes a time when a man has to realize that women are stronger than us, and some sense. And when I see my stepdad say that, it really showed me how powerful women could be. So happy Mother's Day out there. So let's get to it. Let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Is it constitutional to ban foreign citizens from buying land? With so much attention on Florida and Governor Ron DeSantis, one headline homes in on a move to ban Chinese citizens from buying land unless they are a U.S. Unless they're a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident of that state. Now, the key stat in this report is the fact that China owned 352,140 acres of land in 2020 in the United States. The story is still developing. That's why story number 1 crept in this week. Story number 2. In Putin's world, Russia is the victim. Is that true? Now, this is the big question. There's some big question marks when it comes to Putin's endgame. But according to one BBC report in a speech given by Putin on Russia's Victory Day, he seems to justify his invasion of Ukraine while also pointing the finger at Western global elites. So that means he seems to have a motive here. Now, the article goes on to explain how he feels that the real war is against Russia. And after killing mass amounts of people, I don't know how you could justify that. Now, this is with growing tension on the Kremlin. The tension could be that this is a cunning tactic by the Kremlin to shift the pressure off of him and gain more support of his decision to attack Ukraine. This is yet another story that is still developing. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3: 1.2 billion in aid. While the debate on the debt ceiling intensifies, a $1.2 billion aid package to Ukraine was announced. The package is big, folks, but this is not what Americans are concerned about. Their main concern is America. What are taxpayer dollars being spent on? But this is what they're being spent on besides the taxpayers. Are the taxpayer dollars being spent on taxpayers, if you want to simplify the matter? And if they're being spent overseas, there's a high chance that's not being spent on the taxpayers. Now, the article is extensive and talks mainly about everything involved in the Ukraine package, but with the money belt tightening right now, and people watching where the money is going, the taxpayers are what has this story trending and what got this story in. That's why story number 3 made it in this week. Story number 4: the COVID global health emergency may be over, but the COVID stain on the world may be around for a long time. The question now is, what changed? Did the vaccine do it, or did nature do it? The death figures in this report are staggering. The world lost close to 20 million people, and now that the pandemic has been labeled over, analysts may now be observing what the world did right and what the world did wrong. Analysts may also be observing how this can all be prevented in the future from happening again. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 4, so don't you go anywhere. You're in the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. I'm going to schedule you back in about a week, all right? Put you on 10 milligrams. If you need any refills, you got to let me know, all right?
I didn't become a doctor to drug people.
Give up on your dream, John. You cannot cure crazy.
Well, he's one of my patients.
No, patience! Well, tell him to stop coming here and robbing me!
Are you married? I see your ring. Yeah.
But all I know is I need you and you will need me.
Why don't you have your wedding photos up?
Well, I have my reasons for that.
No! You don't know anything about my patients, Kathy! You don't know anything about what these kids, these parents are going through. There's a jungle out here, Kathy! So stay in your lane!
I don't have a chemical imbalance. I just want to go home.
Together, we can make magic.
Please don't leave me this way!
I'm gonna need therapy after this! Who gonna check and see if I'm okay?
Hey, Doc. Don't let me down. Because those meds, they're working.
If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com. Method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor the program. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, shout out to the mothers out there. I'll give one last shout out before we get to these last top 4. It just reminds me of on active duty when I had to spend my injured time in Puerto Rico. I was so afraid. They said, Brian, he's not doing so well. Brian, we're going to call your mom. Do you know I got out of the hospital bed? I said, no, don't call that woman. No. I said, she ain't like Jesus and Mary. I said, that woman will walk on water to get to Puerto Rico to make sure I'm all right. I said, don't do it. She's crazy. So they looked at me and said, you sure you don't want us to call your mom? I said, no. I said, when I get better, call her. Don't tell her I'm hurt. She'll find a way to get here. And they called her anyway. As soon as they called her, she called me in Puerto Rico. I don't even know how she got the number. That's how mothers are. You have to be caring. I thank God, that she gave me a chance to live this life. I've made it through 40 years. Lord willing, I make it to 80. And Lord willing, I hope she makes it to 80. But shout out to all the mothers out there, members of my mother, Lisa Jane. Lisa. She hates when I call her that. But shout out to Lisa Jane. I love to. But shout out to her, and thanks for being there. If you're watching or if you're tuning in, Mom, if you ever get a chance to come by the show, I don't know how I could have made it this far growing up, especially in the inner city and seeing the things that I saw in my life. She just found a way to keep me uplifted, as I'm sure there's a lot of mothers out there who are still uplifted and still uplifting their children. So shout out to all the mothers. Happy Mother's Day, Lisa Jane and all the other mothers out there. Lisa Jane West, beautiful, smiling, and always full of encouraging words. Shout out to Lisa. Well, folks, I even made a song. Being a mother is stronger than being a man, because a mother has to have a plan. She has to understand. Woo! Let's get to it. Story number 5. A chain of young athletes' deaths has spectators concerned. Folks, after the death of an 18-year-old Nebraska high school sports star who collapsed at track practice, the question is, what is causing some athletes to die so young? After the COVID storm, stories like these continue to be attention grabbers because there's been a string of unusual deaths sparking conversations among analysts. Now, this story is still developing, but there's still a lot of questions left on why so many young athletes are dying young. Big headline. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6: the southern border and what ending Title 42 means. Will they storm the border? Here's some questions. What got in the border? Who got into the border? What will get in through the border? What are they going to do, and how are they going to get them out once they get through the border? These are all of the questions in the border story, folks. The Trump stance on the border was tough, and now Biden is being criticized for not being tough enough. And with world problems escalating, now may be not a good time to ease up security at the border, but it may be too late by the airing of this show. This story is still developing. Last week, the plan was to send 1,500 troops. And next week, the plan could be different. Who knows? That's why story number 6 made in this week. Big headline. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headline and developing news stories that made it this week for you, to keep you informed, to keep you on top of your game, to keep the conversation flowing, and on top of that, to keep you above the game when you're in your own heated debates with family and friends. Story number 7. Why are politically motivated crimes such a big deal? That's a good question. In 2022, politically motivated crimes in Germany rose by 7%, according to headlines by Fox News. The story sparked the comparison to recent political infighting in America. Now, under the last few presidents, this story has sparked a debatable topic. What has caused the growing political infighting in America, and is it because of how special interest groups have recently dominated the political discussions? Several events that unfolded, including Black Lives Matter protests and the protests that took place at the White House and Congress. Now, this is what has this story still trending, and even that was going on in Germany. That's why story number 7 made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made it this week. Woo-wee! Last story. And I'll be able to go hang out with my mom. Her birthday was the other day, and now her Mother's Day she gets 2 gifts packed with happy, smiling faces from me, her son, and her daughters. Story number 8. The debt ceiling game begins, folks. There is now only talk, no deal. It's been a critical week for negotiations, according to a BBC report. The main talking point in the story is what could happen if there is a U.S. debt default. The holdup is because of gridlock between Democrats and Republicans. Democrats want the debt ceiling to be raised, while Republicans want spending cuts and other conditions agreed upon first. No matter what everyone seems to agree on, this is a dangerous game, folks. This is a dangerous game that needs to end on a positive note soon. So let's hope that after this Mother's Day, we'll get to keep a lot more mothers happy, because when mothers are happy, the sun shines, folks. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I am just a man in the middle, the mediator, reading all of your story, navigating the news to keep people informed. If you want to show us some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program, or stop at the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman or Youngstown, Ohio, and buy something at the store and see my smiling face, shake my hand, and tell me how decent a baby of a young man I probably am. If not, you can say something brutal and I'll just keep going. Well, folks, I am out here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories to keep you informed. Happy Mother's Day. I'm out here. Have a good week, everybody. Treat your mother like thou would treat thyself. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.